How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Kaiju Frights, a channel where we talk about movies and games, especially those dealing with the action, sci-fi, and horror genres. If that's something that interests you, consider subscribing for more content like this in the future, and if you enjoy this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up as that really helps the channel out. A little over a year ago, Netflix released an anime spin-off of the kaiju mech film Pacific Rim titled Pacific Rim: The Black, which I reviewed and thought was a really great addition to the franchise and felt was easily the greatest non-comic book addition since the original film. Now, Netflix has released the second and final season of Pacific Rim: The Black, and today we're going to discuss how it stacks up to the first season and its role in the genre overall. Season 2 picks up immediately after the first season ends, as we again follow our protagonist Haley and her brother Taylor, along with a survivor they picked up from a resistance group, May, and the mysterious child known only as Boy, who in the big twist at the end of Season 1 was revealed to have the ability to transform himself into a kaiju, in a manner a bit similar to Eren Yeager in the Attack on Titan series. This season, the group continue their quest to reach Sydney Base and hopefully reunite with their parents, but this time they are also stalked by a new dangerous threat, the Sisters of the Kaiju, a cultist group that believes that kaiju are sacred beings and view Boy as their messiah. This plot point was introduced in the final scenes of Season 1, and they are the primary antagonists throughout Season 2, as they stop at nothing to capture Boy for their own nefarious plans. Although seen in action for the first time in Season 1 of Pacific Rim: The Black, the sisters have appeared in other media, most notably the comic miniseries Pacific Rim Aftermath, and the concept of Kaiju Worshippers was even briefly mentioned by Hannibal Chow in the original film, so their inclusion has a long history in the franchise. The story takes a few detours here and there, but for the most part is quite focused on the main characters of the series and their desperate attempts to reach safety together. That's not to say that the series doesn't have a few surprises in store for its audience, which it most certainly does, and it manages to tackle some pretty dark material, with one twist in particular being especially emotional. Much like Season 1, Season 2 is the same sort of 3D anime style one would expect from a Polygon Pictures and Netflix production, but as I said in the review for last season, it definitely works better here than some of their previous entries. The animation is smooth for the most part, and the action is great. My only problems are with the more abstract concepts such as explosions and dust clouds, but overall it's pretty good. And at just 7 roughly half-hour episodes, the series clips along at a brisk pace, and it would be pretty easy to binge the entire show in one go. My only major complaint is possibly with the final fight, as it does seem a bit underwhelming, especially considering the category of threat our protagonists are supposed to be up against. I'd also say the series could definitely have used the amazing theme song from the original film, but for some reason neither this nor Pacific Rim Uprising was able to capture that score. Not sure if it's a rights issue or what, but the creators of the subsequent materials really should have realized that it was definitely a big part in how fans perceived the original film. As you probably can tell, I enjoyed the series quite a bit, and just like Season 1, I'm going to give Pacific Rim: The Black Season 2 a very solid 8 out of 10. I would highly recommend this show to anyone who enjoyed the first film or just overall fans of the kaiju and tokusatsu subgenre. Both seasons of the show were leagues above the Godzilla anime trilogy previously produced by Polygon and Netflix, and also a big improvement over the much better, but still confusing and at times sluggishly paced Godzilla Singular Point that debuted on Netflix last year. Unfortunately, this season is said to be the final season of the series, but in a way that might be for the best, since the storyline that began in Season 1 is resolved in the final episode of Season 2. So it probably wouldn't be in the studio's best interest to continue with it. That isn't to say that Netflix or another streaming service couldn't pick up the franchise down the line, as there's still plenty of stories to tell within the world of Pacific Rim, and I hope someone decides to continue in some way in the future, even if it's only in comic books or novels. Speaking of which, it should be noted that Legendary Comics has produced a prequel graphic novel entitled Pacific Rim Blackout, which was released on February 22nd of this year. So if you're a big fan of the series, I'd suggest looking into that as well. It remains to be seen whether Netflix has any plans to continue with the Pacific Rim franchise in any capacity in the future, though the odds aren't looking great, especially given the streaming service is currently in an uneasy position with a substantial loss of subscribers due to some rather unpopular business decisions, some of which were discussed in the latest episode of the Kaiju Frights podcast. So if you'd like to hear more about that topic, I'll leave a link in the description below. Although Netflix has canceled some of their announced animated projects, as far as I know, the previously announced MonsterVerse animated show Skull Island is still in active production, which, while not a Pacific Rim property, should still be of interest to most fans, as it's also a legendary Kaiju animated series, which is set to follow the 2016 film Kong Skull Island in some capacity, likely serving as a prequel of sorts either to that or last year's Godzilla vs. Kong. So be sure to keep an eye on that in the future, and you can be sure if I hear any updates concerning it that they'll be announced on this channel as well. That's all for my review of Season 2 of Pacific Rim The Black. As mentioned, I enjoyed both seasons quite a bit and would highly recommend them. Hope you have a fantastic and wonderful day, and as always, thanks for watching.